Hi everyone, my name is Josie and I am so excited to be making this video, mainly because this means that I am done with my DAT. I actually took it in June, so it's been a couple of weeks now, and I just wanted to share with you guys my breakdown and how I was able to achieve my score. I got a 21 academic average and a 21 total science. So if you're not familiar yet with how the DAT works, it ranges from a 1 to a 30, where 1, I feel like you have to try really hard or you slept through your test, and 30, it's very rare. I have heard that it's happened. Maybe it's an urban legend, I don't know. No, I think somebody has done it. But the average score for those who've matriculated into dental school tends to be around a 19 or a 20. So anything in that range or above is, of course, amazing. And the DAT is not everything, so keep in mind that even if you didn't get an amazing score, that doesn't hinder your application completely, but you definitely want to hit that target to ensure that you have a better opportunity of matriculating into dental school. But like I said, GPA, DAT, that's not everything to your application. You are a person, not a computer, not a robot, not just a statistic. But if you want to know how I got my score, I'm going to break it down for you guys. I actually got a 20 for the biology section, a 21 for inorganic chemistry, a 23 for organic chemistry, a 26 for reading comprehension, an 18 for perceptual ability, and a 16 for quantitative reasoning. And I will tell you exactly how that happened, because my testing day was filled with horror after horror. But after I was done, I just stared at my computer screen and I looked at the scores that popped up and I couldn't believe it. So the day of my exam, it was raining very, very hard. And it seemed like there was a tropical depression. I live in Florida, so we get stuff like this all the time. And I was freaking out because I left my house an hour and a half before I was supposed to test. And my exam was at 8:30 in the morning, so there really shouldn't have been that much traffic. But there was, because there were 1,000 accidents on the highway. I got there 20 minutes before my exam. Luckily, I had done the Prometric test drive, and that helped me get a lot of that anxiety that I had out, because with that test drive, I actually paid $30 for it, and you were able to come in, see where the bathrooms were, the lockers, the check-in process. They actually check you in, do the whole testing you with the metal detectors, and they actually let you sit down and see how the screens look, the noise canceling headphones, the whole shebang, for about 30 something minutes. So I recommend it for anybody who wants to kind of diminish their anxiety on the actual testing day, especially if you get something that happens to you like what happened to me. I've also heard of people that what they do, instead of actually paying for it, they drive to the testing center, and they do this at around the same time that they're supposed to test, and then they'll drive home and take a full-length practice exam. So that's also pretty good. Whatever it is that you do, do it so that on the day of the test, despite anything that may happen, that you can go ahead and feel a little bit better. So for the exam, I did not use a prep course. I studied on my own, and I'm gonna let you guys know what really did it for me. Number one thing is Chad's videos. And Chad's videos is an invaluable resource. It has an amazing reputation in the community for those that are studying for their DAT. And this is because this man, this bald, amazing man, is going to break everything down for you as far as organic chemistry, inorganic chemistry, and even quantitative reasoning. Now, he's definitely more known for the chemistry videos, and I will tell you, they are top notch. I mean, he tells you everything you need to know, and he makes sure that you don't stress out about the things that you don't have to stress about. He skips all the stuff that you learned in Gen Chem that you're not going to see, or organic chemistry. And for those of you that might be a little stressed about the fact that there is no calculator on the Gen Chem section, and you're thinking, well, how am I supposed to calculate a rate law or a buffer? He has amazing ways of estimating that maybe you've forgotten because you haven't taken a math class in a while, or you took an AP class and you got out of math before you even started college, things like that. So I think it's extremely useful. And on top of everything, he has quizzes for a lot of the videos. So you can take a quiz. I would recommend, instead of taking them right after you watch the video, I would go ahead and take it the next day to see if you really internalize what you learned, because of course it's pretty easy to maybe come up with the answer after you've already seen the material. So the next day, that would be a better idea. And then what you're shaking on, you can kind of skip back to your notes. Make sure you keep detailed notes. And you can do that if you can either print the outline and fill in the outline that he provides, or you can take notes yourself. And what I did is I myself kept notes. Very important that the notes that you keep, that you make sure that you review them periodically. Especially what I would do is before taking any full-length exams, I would go ahead and review my notes. So that's what helped me. With Chad's videos, I think if you have an ASDA membership, you can go ahead and get it at a discounted price. I think it's $37 a month, and it keeps renewing, and it's through Course Saver. I'm going to put down everything below so that you guys have it, and that way you can click on any of the links. Also, for the biology section, what I used was the AP Clips biology book, Feralis notes, a taxonomy worksheet, and Khan Academy medicine. Now, the AP Clips biology book, it's a little review book that you can get on Amazon. I got it used for $4. It looks awesome. And I felt a little weird walking around with it because you're in college, you're probably a junior or senior walking around with it, and it's an AP book. AP review book, but whatever it takes, right? This book gives you a really good foundation. It also has quizzes at the end, and it gives you like that really nice foundation for you to get into the world of biology. And for this test, biology is really broad. I really believe that it depends on the exam that you get, but they can throw anything at you. And for this, I recommend going through this book, reading it maybe once, twice doesn't hurt for the sections that you are weak on. You can even make flashcards, or you can go online. If you use Quizlet, you can find flashcards from people who have already taken the exam and they've created them. What I love about Quizlet is that when you make a flashcard, the computerized voice actually can read them back to you. So if you're like me and you have commutes anywhere, maybe it takes a while for you to get to school, or you're non-traditional and you're going to work, you can actually have these flashcards read to you in the car via Bluetooth or whatever it is that you use to hook up your phone. They also have this new feature now where you can record your own voice, so you don't even have to waste the time typing the flashcards. With Feralis notes, I mean, this was awesome. I didn't read as much as I should have, but I got through most of it. The Feralis notes compiles information from the AP biology book, but it also increases the knowledge of physiology that you're going to need, because I think that the AP biology book doesn't cover as much. It has body systems in there, but it's definitely more basic. So you definitely want to look at Feralis notes to get to that next level of learning or of knowledge that is going to be on the DAT. Feralis notes can be found already pre-made with Anki flashcards, and Anki is this program that you can download similar to Quizlet, but it looks a little bit older, a little bit more run down. I think it's free on the computer, but if you download it through an app, it costs $20, so it's not the cheapest, but it's worth it if you don't have a lot of time and you need to have those flashcards already there for you. And it's cool because it works on memory learning. I know a couple of people that use it in dental school and in medical school. It kind of piles up the cards and finds out what you learned, what you didn't learn, and then it puts what you didn't learn together with the stuff that you should be learning. But if you let it get out of hand and you're not keeping up with the cards every single day, then they pile up and it becomes like a really big mess, and then you get discouraged, which is what happened to me. So I made my own. I'll put that down below as well. The next resource that I'm going to talk about applies for a lot of sections. The DAT Destroyer. I mean, this resource is amazing, but I want to caution you that it's going to make you feel like you didn't learn anything. This is because this is a resource that is made strictly for practicing. It is this huge book that you basically have biology questions in, organic chemistry, inorganic chemistry, quantitative reasoning, and you can buy different bundles depending on what you feel you need help in the most. I found that the bundle that has organic chemistry, inorganic, biology, and quantitative reasoning in was the most useful for me because I didn't have a lot of time. Like, I had 8 weeks to study. Really, I got the DAT Math Destroyer and it was overkill. I didn't get to do that, and honestly I wish I wouldn't have gotten it. But if you have a lot of time, get the DAT Math Destroyer. You will not regret it, and we'll talk about that now. But for the DAT Destroyer, what I love was that there were challenging questions. There were a lot of conceptual questions that were very challenging because for the Gen Chem sections, even though you're going to get a little freaked out as you do calculations and things like that, there are more conceptual questions. So you want to really focus on that as well, not just the calculations. And this book has answers in the back that are very to the point. My suggestion is that when you get a question wrong, don't simply rely on the answers of the DAT Destroyer. They will give you a good enough answer. But what you want to do to increase the retention of learning is to look for outside resources. So what I would do when I would get something wrong, let's say you didn't remember oxidation numbers because you did it like so long ago, and you needed to learn how to balance a redox reaction, again, one of the difficult ones. So instead of just seeing the explanation that DAT Destroyer gave you, you're going to go online and you're going to find a different web page that shows you step by step. It breaks it down, and you're going to put it in a little binder and you're going to look back at it. I had an entire binder where I housed all of my extra resources, and that way I was able to view everything again. With the DAT Destroyer, you want to do a couple of questions a day, and I'll post the study guide that I used. I used a modified version of Ari's 10-week study guide. He's the one who started DAT Bootcamp, so I'll post that down below for you guys. Maybe you guys can do the full 10 weeks. People recommend, people who have gotten higher than me, I mean 23s and 24s, they seriously recommend doing this DAT Destroyer more than once, as in you finished it, you go and you do the questions again and see how you're progressing. I didn't have a chance to even finish it the first time, so that kind of gives you an idea of the difference. Maybe that was a higher level score, and I definitely recommend that you guys do it like that. The biology section for this is not as well known or talked about, but I found it kind of useful. I only got to do the first 50 questions, I think, and I love that their questions were very weird and out of the box, and the way that they asked things was a really good prep for any kind of funky questions or application questions that you would see on the DAT that were biology based, and it was a great way to get even more information under my belt. So I think that's it for DAT Destroyer. I would recommend that you guys definitely focus on learning. This tool is not meant for you to test whether you got this many right or this many wrong. That is not what it's for. It is for learning. So don't focus on the 1,000 that you're getting wrong. So the next resource that I'm going to talk to you guys about is DAT Bootcamp. DAT Bootcamp saved my life. This resource is amazing. And when I say amazing, I mean amazing. This resource cost me, I think, $147 for 90 days. I don't know if that was a special or maybe it's changed. So I recommend you guys, I'm going to post this down here, the link, and you guys can check it out. I don't know if the special has changed, but that's what it cost when I got it. It has every section on the DAT, and it simulates what your DAT interface actually looks like, and it gets really, really close. I mean, they even include the highlighting. You can skip questions, you can review them later. It's fantastic. And for the bio section, it is so thorough. I mean, their explanations are amazing. The way that I recommend it, because this is how it works, they have all the sections for the DAT, and they have 10 individual subject tests for each individual section. And then they have 5 full-length tests which combine all the sections together, and they do the timing for you just like the real exam. Now, the issue with the 10 individual subject tests for each section and having the 5 full-length tests is that the 5 full-length tests they're actually the combination of the first 5 subject tests just randomized. So if you've already taken like maybe a Gen Chem section subject test once and an Orgo one for the 3rd subject test, I mean, you would have already seen the answers. So what I did, instead of relying on the full-length exams, I would take individual subject tests randomly as I would go, just to keep up my stamina. And then for the last 5 subject tests, I did full-length exams. And I think I'm going to make a separate video for practice exams. Otherwise, this one's going to get really, really long. And I'll tell you guys how I recommend that you do practice exams. So for that, I really encourage you guys to do the first 5, just because the first 5 I think had the really nice explanations, really nice pictures, really nice everything. And then the last 5 were intense. So you want to take those as your full lengths, and I think that you would benefit more like that. And what I did to simulate the full length, I opened a bunch of tabs. So I would open the subject test for each individual section in different tabs, and they were there ready to go in my browser. And I had this app which already let me preset sections. And I was able to set up the sections as if it were the timer for the DAT. This way I didn't have to resort to my phone, and I didn't have to look at it ever. I just had the timer run. And then I would take the test. And I believe that that helped me a lot. I give DAT Bootcamp a 10 out of 10. For the Gen Chem section, oh my gosh, this was spot on, exactly what I got on my test. And for some people it's always a little higher, or it's right on the money. So I definitely recommend using DAT Bootcamp. The same thing for the Orgo section. Actually, for the Orgo section, I was freaking out a little bit. I think people traditionally get everything a little bit higher on the real exam than they do on DAT Bootcamp's Orgo section. I was getting like 18s and 19s for the DAT Bootcamp exams, and on the real DAT, I ended up getting a 23 for Orgo. So, you know, tread lightly with the DAT Bootcamp scores. I think Ari recommends not focusing too much on that estimated score, because really what you're trying to do is learn and become a better test taker. And I think with DAT Bootcamp, another benefit is that you get to practice your test taking skills, because it is an exam not just about knowledge, but test taking skills. You need to practice how to skip questions that maybe you're never going to be able to answer, or are too long or you're running out of time, skip and come back, skip and come back, review all. So you can practice that on this interface. My PAT section is borderline. I know it's an 18, but trust me, you would be happy for my score if you saw what I was getting without taking my real exam. It was bad. I mean, I was trying to figure out whether I wanted to reschedule or not, and someone that I spoke to actually told me, you know what, you can't reschedule life sometimes, so just take it, you might be ready. And I really felt like I was ready. It was just that one section that was kind of stressing me out, and it ended up working out. I got for that perceptual ability section, I tried using as most as I could of DAT Bootcamp towards the end. Again, it was something I studied less than my other sections, and they have 15-minute generators that you can do every single day, which a lot of people find very helpful. And they also have the ability for you to move shapes around in space. They have simulators there. They have things that show you how the paper was folded. The cube counting is highlighted. I mean, it's phenomenal. So definitely recommend for that. I don't recommend crack DAT PAT. I got it just because I saw people had recommended it in the past. I think now it might be outdated. And to be honest, I had gotten like the most basic section just for the PAT. And I thought it was too easy compared to the real DAT. And it also was very outdated. Also, I had gotten the crack DAT PAT really early on when I thought about studying, and I hadn't done anything with it, and I downloaded it and inputted the license code. This is through license codes, and my hard drive crashed. When I got the hard drive replaced, guess what? I didn't have the software on my computer, and they will charge you minimum half of the purchase, or they'll ask you to like upgrade to a different section. So that's also something. Whereas with DAT Bootcamp, it's just all cloud-based. It's on your browser. You can access it from any computer. So yeah, I don't recommend crack DAT PAT. I also got a Kaplan book, and this you can also find used, and it was like the first thing that I used to study perceptual ability, just to get a feel for what it looked like, because I had heard of the section and the horrors, but I had never actually sat down and seen the questions that they ask. So that's why I got that book. But another reason I got it is because it came with a free practice exam, and trust me, you want to pick up as many practice exams as you can. And I use that as my diagnostic exam, and I'll talk more about that later in another video. But I recommend it just to have around. I also put it in my bathroom, and I would like just browse through it when I was, you know, hanging out in the bathroom. I think it's a good book to just place in there, and you can just lightly read. But I don't think it's anything too impressive. For the reading comprehension section, everyone asks me how I studied. And this is because, like I mentioned, I got a 26, which is pretty close to that coveted 30, which is kind of not heard of often. So people were very impressed, and they asked me how I studied for it. I did not study for the reading comprehension test. I think I took one subject test on DAT Bootcamp for reading comprehension, and I was like, what is this? And since I had already taken a diagnostic, I thought maybe it wasn't as representative as I expected it to be of the actual exam. It had a lot of tone questions in it. It was just a little bit more difficult than it really was. And for me, I know people use a search and destroy method. I'm not a fan, just because then you really don't know what you're reading. There are questions that ask you how the author was feeling. They do ask very specific questions, and they do have a highlight feature on the test, so make use of that. I highlighted a bunch of really weird details that maybe I wasn't going to remember as I was reading, and that way when I was bouncing through the article, I could see, okay, this weird detail that they're asking me in this question, it has to be somewhere in my highlight. So you just have to get really good at predicting what they might ask of you, and also just become an avid reader. I read a lot, so I was able to read those passages very quickly and get straight to my questions. I use this method where I think I used the first 10 minutes to read the passage and highlight and do what I needed to do, and then 10 minutes to answer questions. Even if I wasn't done, I would move on to the next one. 10 minutes to read, 10 minutes to answer questions, move on, because you get an hour. So definitely it's about speed. Don't forget, skip questions, come back, skip questions, come back. And then I always, like I said, I read. I'm an oldie, I'm on Facebook a lot. So what I did was that I selected varied publications and news sources that I usually enjoy reading on a day-to-day basis, and I clicked, if you go to the page on Facebook, you can drop down where you clicked follow and you can click see first. You'll never miss an article, and it pops up at the beginning of your feed, and it's awesome because I would wake up in the morning and instead of just seeing what somebody's dog was doing, I would click on an article from either Scientific American or Bloomberg or Nature or the Wall Street Journal. Those are all good publications that have a good amount of wording in a lot of their articles. You want to pick longer passages. They also tend to have writing that is close to what you're going to see on the DAT. So I found that very useful, and I always recommend that to everyone. But as far as practicing, I didn't practice that. I just was a good reader to begin with. If you want to become a better reader, that method that I told you I think would be useful. If you don't have Facebook, then just set up like a little bookmark on your computer where you put all of the publications you want to read and just pick one in the morning. For the quantitative reasoning section, this was traumatic for me because when I got to this section, I was already tired. I basically started the test, and then my computer froze 20 minutes in. And I just frantically started raising my hand. I was calling the proctor. I'm like, what is happening? And this person, you know, it's a quiet testing environment, but I was freaking out. I was trying to ask her if I was going to have to start the test again, and I would just look at her like this, and she eventually just shushed me. She said, just so she was probably like, this girl is crazy, but this test was defining my life. And what happened was that I just sat there watching her troubleshoot my computer, and eventually when she saw that it couldn't be done, she turned it off in front of me, and I literally almost died. But then she was able to log into a different computer and my timer started again. And mind you, she was in the way of my computer and my timer is running, and I almost shoved her to the side. But I mean, I really appreciate that she was able to help. And that was just, after that, I was so frazzled. I just wanted to be done, and it was really difficult to concentrate. I definitely recommend for the math section, DAT Destroyer, and they have new comparison questions this year added to the DAT. I think DAT Destroyer isn't including that just yet, so I would recommend using a GRE book because the GRE has these comparison questions. So I had a GRE book lying around, and I actually studied from that the night before. So I recommend that you don't do that section like me, and hopefully you have no computer issues. I think that was pretty much everything that I had to say about the DAT. One last tip. You have a pretty long break in between your perceptual ability and reading comprehension. Be very careful. It takes a bit of time to sign back in after you sign out, when you go to the bathroom or when you're having lunch or a snack. So I would recommend allotting 10 minutes of time to do all of that stuff. Don't give yourself more than that, or at least come back 10 minutes before, because you don't know how long the line is going to be, especially if you have a popular testing time. You don't know how long the line is going to be to get back into your exam. I've heard of people that completely forgot and their reading comprehension starts, and that is not a section that you want to even lose 1 minute from. That will kill you. So I recommend just timing yourself correctly, getting back in so you're not stressed out. I actually ended up starting my timer before my break was over because I just wanted to be done. So that was my last tip for that. I'll make a different video for the practice tests that I used and how to use them, but I hope that this was very useful for you guys, even though it's a really long video and it's just winding and me talking. But I felt really happy about what I got, and I just wanted to give back because I read through so many breakdowns that helped me compile these resources for myself, that helped me figure out how I wanted to study, and I hope that you guys use this as a stepping stone in your DAT study schedule. So I hope that you guys like it. Share, subscribe, and ask me any questions that you have about the DAT. I'll be happy to answer them, about my experience. I hope that I will see you guys next time, and if you're taking your test in the near future, I wish you the very best luck.